Hi guys, welcome back. Today we'll be taking a look at some of the Chinese stocks listed in the US. Before we begin, remember take a second to give the video a like and subscribe as you greatly help our channel. Without further ado, let's first start off with Alibaba or BABA. So you can see that Alibaba did manage to try to had a bounce last week. Unfortunately, after hitting this cloud resistance, it came back down. And furthermore, you can see that this blue conversion line and red baseline did not hold it. In fact, we actually broke down pretty quickly and we tested near the $90 psychological support level. So this puts us back into this 23.6% at 89.30. In the event that we break down next week or even tomorrow or so, and at this particular level at 86.71 do not hold, then it's a likelihood for us to actually come back down to retest this 801, which was this particular previous low here on this particular day, sometime in May and June. So in the event that this $80 psychological support do not hold, then we will start turning very bearish. As for the resistance to watch, it will be around $95, $96 at this blue conversion line and red baseline as well. Even if we do go up further, perhaps even testing the $100 psychological resistance next week, we are met with this cloud resistance. So there's a chance for us to even pull back down towards this $80 psychological support level. Let's move on to Tencent. So for Tencent, you can see that we actually face a lot of resistance. You can see that previous support here, which was a very strong support at around this $40 has now turned into resistance, and we are currently trying to push up above this resistance. At the same time, we are also facing a lot of cloud resistance here. On the way up, the cloud will act as a strong resistance. And the cloud, you can see that is generally quite thick compared to this area here, where the cloud is quite thin. So for the resistance to watch, the first key resistance will be 42.30. Next one will be 44.08 and 45.85 levels. If we were to break down this support level at around this $41, then we're likely to be looking towards this $40 psychological support or just below it at around $39.70. In the event that that $39 do not hold, then we are likely to come back to retest this 36.37 or even potentially creating a new low from here. Let's move on to NetEase. So for NetEase, you can see that after testing this 38.2% at 83.96, we see a bounce. Unfortunately, this cloud acted as a strong resistance and we came back down to, in a sense, creating a higher low here. But it seems to be unable to actually break up above this red baseline and blue conversion line at around $90 to $91. So for now, we are around this 50% at 88.70. If we pull back down once again, then $84 would be the next support in line, or even potentially heading back towards this 23.6% at 78.10. That said, even if you go back up at around $93 to $95, we are facing a lot of cloud resistance from here. If you can punch up, then $100 would be the next psychological resistance for us to clear for NetEase. Moving on to NIO. So for NIO, you can see that we are trading sideways for a while now. Unfortunately, it looks pretty bearish. You can see that even the cloud support just broke down on Thursday and Friday itself. On this particular day here, we broke down the cloud support, but we actually managed to close above it intraday, and we saw a strong bounce for about 2 to 3 days. Thereafter, we could not penetrate through the clouds and we came back down once again. So in the event that we do not see a bounce next week and get a double bottom here, then unfortunately, we may continue to slide on further to even 38.2% at 16.55 or even 14.68, which is still quite far away. For the resistance to watch, we'll be looking towards this 1950 and also 1980 levels, which is this blue conversion line and red baseline respectively. Not forgetting, on the way up, the cloud will also act as a strong resistance all the way up to around $19 to $21. Moving on to the next particular stock, which is JD. So for JD, you can see that we are covering still above the 61.8% at the $60 psychological support. We closed at 61.29 just on Friday itself. So this support at around 60-50 levels is a very critical support to hold. If we were to break down next week, then 57 and even 55 may potentially be the next two supports for JD.com. If you can punch up there, 63.70 and potentially $68 would be the next two resistance for JD. Moving on to Baidu. So for Baidu, similar situation to JD, we are at the same time still hovering around the 61.8% and 135 levels. We closed just above this $140 psychological support last Friday, and in fact can see that now we are on the way down towards the cloud, so the cloud should act as a strong support on the way down for BIDU. In the event that we break down, then 130 and 122 is the next to support for Baidu. If we can punch up, then the key resistance to clear would be around $150 psychological resistance. As you can see that many sellers actually appear at these levels here around $150 psychological resistance. Let's move on to PDD. So PDD we seems to be trending up, but for now we shouldn't be too excited. You can see that this was the previous resistance here. It seems like we have actually broken out of this resistance. So what we want to see is previous resistance here turning into support. So if we were to go back down, what we want to see is that this previous support here at around previous resistance here at around 68.71 can turn into support, and for us to continue to climb back up. If this previous resistance here did not manage to hold and we start breaking down, then apparently it seems like a bull trap, and it seems like a fake breakout. And in the event that we can actually surpass this $72 or around this $75 with good volume, then our next potential resistance would be 78.6% at the $80 psychological resistance here. If we can punch up even further, then we are likely to be heading towards the recent high of 95.58, which was sometime back before 2022. That said, for the supports to watch, you can see that every time we go too far away from this blue conversion line and red baseline, we tend to actually come back down once again. So if we were to pull back down, we may see quite a big pullback and even heading towards the $60 psychological support level, or even $58 or $59 to actually trigger some stop losses. That said, in the event that we can hold this 68.71, which is a very key support to hold, then that would be a good sign for PDD. Moving on to KWEB or KWEB. So for KWEB, you can see that we already broke through the cloud support level, and we are just below this 50%, 29.04. So the next support to watch will be 27.78 and 26.23 for next week. In the event that we can cross this key resistance at around 29.50, 29.60, that will be a good sign for KWEB. If we can punch up further, then 30.30 would be the next resistance to watch. Let's move on to CWEB. So for CWEB, a very similar situation, although it is slightly weaker than KWEB. You can see that we are already below the clouds, and this 30.2% is really broken down. So it puts us in a very good position to actually retest this 49.96 or even the $50 psychological support next week. If you were to break down once again, you can see that this was a strong support here, and if this support were to break down, and this support here is around $48, $47, then we're likely to actually head back to retest this recent low of 40.40. If we can punch up this key resistance here at around $58, $57, then we would be facing some cloud resistance at this $60 all the way to around $66. Lastly, we have FXI. So FXI, once again, it is even weaker compared to KWEB and CWEB, and we are already below this 23.6%. You can see that we are very, very bearish. So it's a very good chance for us to come back here to retest the lows of 27.83, which was this particularly low here sometime in mid-May. If you can punch up, then the key resistance to watch would be around 30.30. And not forgetting, there's also a lot of resistance from $30 to $32. So as you can see, overall, the Chinese stocks listed in the US appears to be very bearish, and most of the stocks, except for Baidu or even JD, they are actually trading below the cloud support level, and definitely on the way up, the cloud will act as a strong resistance for all the Chinese stocks. So if we do not continue to punch up next week, then I'm afraid we will continue to see lower lows, and hopefully we get to see some bounce soon. So if there's any changes, I'll give you guys an update. Thanks for stopping by. Till we meet again, appreciate the manipulation.